Okay, this is the midget submarine that was dredged up out of Pearl Harbor after the initial attack on Pearl Harbor. As you can see, it's pretty cool. I'll give you a little scale of how big it is. Here's my hand. The midget submarines were basically useless in Pearl Harbor. They had two preloaded torpedoes on them. They would have been much better off if they just did PT boats. Now here's a picture, here's a model of the USS Ward. It was the first ship to fire, and it fired on and sunk the midget submarines here. And then here's another one, the USS Condor, and it sunk the other Japanese midget submarines. I'm going to let this run while they have a little presentation here, but it's always been my contention that Roosevelt encouraged the Japanese to hit Pearl Harbor. It was political expediency, and the book by Gary Victor, who went in as a skeptic, ended up becoming a true believer that Roosevelt wanted us to get into war. So they're going to run a little presentation here. I'm going to let it go and let them talk about it. And if you come here to the Nimitz Center, you'll note on the other side of this here, there's a gift shop, and they have an area of it cut out so you can see on the inside of it. They don't really point that out, but it's pretty cool. Here it goes. It's starting here, so let it run for a while. It's kind of always been my contention that if you're going to get beat up in an emergency room. They refloated all but 3 ships in Pearl Harbor, saw action by the end of the war. So, and it saved a lot of the sailors' lives that actually happened in port, because all they had to do was jump off of the ship and swim to shore. If they would have had an hour preparation, they could have put out to sea. There would have been thousands of feet of water. There would have been so much chaos, we probably would have lost an order of magnitude more sailors, and the ships that were refloated would not have been refloated. Might have sunk a few Japanese ships, but they were prepared and we weren't. So the fact that it happened in Pearl Harbor was probably almost a godsend. And I'm going to take you over, depending on how long this thing runs, to where they called off the third wave, and the third wave because the Japanese were upset that they really wanted to get the carriers, or the carriers were out at sea. And so they called off the third wave. The third wave was to get the oil storage on top of the mountain. If they would have gone ahead with the third wave, Midway would have been put off for quite a while. So that alone, everything worked out good for the Americans there. They refloated most of the ships. And, obviously we lost a lot of people, but it would have been an order of magnitude if there was actually an hour preparation where they put out to sea. Thank you. I'll let it run now for a while. I had an uncle that was already in the Navy at the time, and he was immediately dispatched to Pearl Harbor, and he did guard duty along the beaches there, and he said you could hear him tapping SOS on in the trapped ships. He said he was kind of happy when it was raining. You couldn't hear him tapping. He said And this happened on December 7th, and he said just before Christmas the tapping stopped, so that the people trapped in there died of you know, hypothermia. Even in water that warm, hypothermia does get you, and lack of air, and probably were bled out from injuries. But anyway, there you go. Thank you.